Hi everyone, and welcome to Uncovered Vintage Fashion Magazine Review. I'm Stephanie, and I've been collecting and selling vintage fashion magazines for over 20 years.
And I'm Morley. I'm a former copywriter and am now an award-winning playwright and screenwriter.
Together, we will examine some of your favorite vintage fashion magazines from the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
On Uncovered, we'll discuss some of the magazine's models, layouts, and did I mention the models?
And we'll also review some of the ads and articles that make these magazines such a great piece of pop culture history. So, fasten your seatbelts and let's get uncovered. This week's guest is the epitome of brains and beauty. At just 14 years old, she was the youngest contestant ever to win the very prestigious Ford Supermodel of the World contest. By the tender age of 15, she became the youngest model ever to grace the cover of American Vogue. She has made over 50, that's 50, television and film appearances, including Beverly Hills 90210, The Bold and the Beautiful, Charmed, Designing Women, and The King of Queens, just to name a few. She also studied journalism at UCLA, which led to many appearances as a television correspondent. As if that's not enough, this model/mother/author is equally comfortable in heels as she is in a hard hat when she renovates properties. Uncovered Vintage Fashion Magazine Review is very proud to welcome our very own Canadian supermodel, Monika Schnarre.
Welcome, Monika.
Hello, Monika.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being with us.
So, Monika, can you tell us what led up to you entering the Ford Supermodel of the World competition?
Sure. So it was actually such a crazy whirlwind experience because I didn't know I had entered. My agent in Toronto had submitted my picture to Eileen Ford. And I guess they were on a deadline to find a Canadian representative. They had 23 countries and Canada wasn't represented. And Judy Welch, my agent in Toronto, I had walked in, just a few months prior on a cold call, that's another story. But and she had submitted my picture, and Eileen Ford said, yes, she's representing Canada. And so that's how I ended up 6 months after I started my career on stage in Hollywood.
Wow. And I understand that you had to beat out 44 other contestants.
43 others?
I guess so, yeah. Well, and then worldwide, thousands. I was really lucky to have won the contest. Pre-America's Next Top Model, we had, before the internet, we had the face of the 80s. And then when I won that year, they changed it to the Supermodel of the World because, we were running out of 80s. And so 23 countries represented, and I was lucky to have won.
So this is a silly question. Was there like a talent portion where you had to do like juggling or singing or anything? No? Okay.
No, thank God.
Good question.
I was going to ask you if you can sing a few bars for us.
No, my talent ends at taking pictures.
Can you describe what the competition was like? Did you understand the magnitude of how it would change your life at 14 years old?
Well, I had no concept of how my life would change because I didn't think I would, win. And I was 14. I was the youngest one on stage. The young women, very young, were lovely for the most part. And I'm still in touch with a few of them.
Nice.
South Africa, Karen Bernstein and I are still in touch, and we have some really great relationships. For the most part, it was just such an experience, and I did feel young. I didn't feel cool I looked up to Karen because she was just she was from South Africa. She felt worldly, and I was from this small town, well, not so small anymore, but Scarborough, Canada, home of Mike Myers and Jim Carrey, by the way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Some comedians for sure.
That's right.
But I just, I had a really lovely experience, and I just enjoyed it because I didn't think my life would change. I didn't think I'd win.
So aside from winning, after you won, did you do what a true Canadian would do, and did you apologize to all the losers? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
That's
sorry.
true.
I did not apologize. No,
Good.
I didn't. But
Good for you.
sorry. I do say that a lot in my daily life.
So now you're modeling for Ford, and I understand that some of the models moved in with Eileen and Jerry Ford.
Mm-hmm.
Did you?
I did, and I was one of the ones that stayed the longest because I was so young. Most of the girls stayed from 17 till 20, maybe 19, 20 till they moved out. But I was 14, so I was really like a daughter to them, and they were, we would watch 60 Minutes. This sounds really weird, but we'd watch 60 Minutes in bed together because that's where they watched 60 Minutes. But they really took me under their wing, and they were lovely people to me.
That's really nice.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to ask you what they're like, so you've answered my question. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mm-hmm. I remember your first American Vogue cover very well from 1986. What was it like to work with Richard Avedon, Suga, Ariella, Polly Mellon?
I understood the magnitude at that point of that moment, because that was, to me, the pinnacle of any model's career, that and Sports Illustrated. And I just showed up, and I did my best, and Avedon was very kind. And, the biggest photographers in the world were actually the kindest and had the least amount of ego. I always had a problem, maybe more with the ones that were insecure and, and not as amazing. He was lovely. And Polly Mellon actually was quoted because there was a journalist from Interview magazine there that day, and they quoted her as saying, "Avedon, shoot this girl before she turns 15." And so everyone was laughing, and they wrote that in Interview magazine. And
that's very cool.
I understood how special that moment was.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. And I've heard very good things about Polly Mellon.
Yeah, you know what? Her assistants probably would take issue with what you just said, but she made all of her assistants cry. But she was very lovely with the models and to me.
That's nice.
Well, when we spoke with Albert Watson a few weeks ago, very complimentary towards her. He had nothing but good things to say about Polly Mellon.
Oh, that's nice. Yes. Yeah. I only worked with Albert a couple of times, and he the same thing. The legends, the greatest photographers, Stephen Meisel, Avedon, all of them, Albert Watson, were the kindest and most giving. And I think that it speaks to their art because, and helps them with their art, because if you make a model uncomfortable and insecure, you're not going to get the best pictures, right? And Stephen Meisel, for example, would always make sure that you felt beautiful, because if you didn't, it shows in the pictures, right?
So, that makes sense.
Yeah. And could you share some of your favorite hair and makeup people that you've worked with as well?
Oh my goodness, that's going to make me cry because so many are gone. I lived through the 80s, and, AIDS had just started happening, and I worked with so many. But I mean, Kevin O'Coin did not pass from AIDS, but he's gone, and Orbe did not pass from AIDS, but he's gone. But so many others that were not quite as famous, we lost to the AIDS epidemic, and that was really hard. But I worked with all the greats, and I'm so grateful. When I tell younger women that I worked with Bobby Brown or Francois Nars or, Orbe, they're like, what? Because they're all in the stores now, you can go find them, their makeup and hair products. And so that was pretty cool.
I guess it reminds me of Max Factor, where Max Factor was a makeup artist for Hollywood, and then he came up with his own line.
Yeah. Right, and continues on today.
Yeah. So you've appeared in a lot of films and television shows. Wondering, how did you make the transition from modeling to acting?
Well, Eileen Ford was not happy. I'm going to tell you that when I, at 19, at the height of my career, I was just sort of lost and unhappy. And I said, I'm moving to LA and I'm going to be an actress. And she's like, oh my God, you're too tall. And Renee Russo, she's not going to make it because she's too tall.
Wow.
And so I didn't quite do as well as Renee Russo, but I made a living, and I just moved. I needed some autonomy. I needed to grow up. I needed some space. I had always done what everyone wanted me to do, and I just needed to go find myself. And so I moved to LA at 19, and I woke up because I met this. I went a couple months prior to find a roommate before I graduated from high school. And I went on an audition for this is aging me. This was for Dallas.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
And the secretary said, or assistant, we don't say secretary anymore. The assistant to the producer said, she's looking for a roommate. And I said, me too. And so I moved out and I was I arrived at 11 o'clock at night or something. And I woke up and I had no idea where, like what, sort of the landscape of LA. And I woke up on the beach in Manhattan Beach. And I opened my windows and I thought, I made it. Like, this was the best thing ever. I had a tiny little room in her apartment and I was so happy.
Now, for our listeners, I believe that you are 6'1", if I'm not mistaken.
Well, to be honest, Morley, I lie a lot about my age.
What's your real name, Monika? Come on, cut the crap. What's your name?
I lie a lot because, okay, so it depends on the job, right? If it's an acting job, I'll say I'm 5'10". I'll say 6 feet, but I'm 6'1" 3/4".
3/4.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I ever see you in the
You're so lucky.
If I ever see you in the grogrocery store, I'll know who to ask to help me with the top shelf.
But it's a problem. So it's problematic when you go to Prague, for example, and you've said that you're 6 feet and the lead actor says he's 5'10", and you're actually more like 6'2", and he's, he says he's 6 feet, but he's 5'10". So it's a problem on screen.
Well, I remember, this is before your time a little bit, but there's a TV show, Get Smart. Mm-hmm. And Don Adams was a star. I think he was 5'6" in heels, and his co-star Barbara Feldon was like 5'9". So often when they appeared together on screen, he would be on like an
apple box,
on a platform. Yeah,
I was thinking like lifts or something in his shoes, but he
was on a box. And there's TV show Definition, you recall, with Jim Perry.
Sure.
And he was like 6'6". And when we appeared on the show, my brother and I, he had a pit to make him look normal size. It was called Perry's Pit. So, yeah.
That's been my whole career. Apple boxes. The males are on apple boxes, and I'm in my bare feet.
I've seen some pictures of you with some of your co-stars, and you look like Gulliver in the land of
It's a problem. So, when I'm auditioning, I always say to my agent, are you sure? I'm not, am I wasting my time? Because I don't book those roles where I'm next to usually a male counterpart. I book the sort of the alien or the cyborg, like where I can just be myself,
Yeah. Speaking of TV shows, I was a fan of the show Beverly Hills 90210. However, according to Jessica Alba in recent interviews, the cast was allegedly very cold to her and others. Did you have the same experience?
The truth is, I did read that, there was only one actress and she wasn't one of the regulars. And I don't even remember her name, to be honest with you, but Jason Priestley was lovely to me. He's very pro-Canadian and he was very welcoming. Ian Ziering was lovely to me. Tori Spelling, I ran into, not on set, but while I was filming, I went out to a nightclub and she said, oh, you're filming our show. And I just wanted to introduce myself. They were all very sweet. They were sweet to me. But that one actress was such a bitch.
Sorry, say that again?
Oh, no. The one actress I can't remember. She was such a bitch.
But you're lying anyway, aren't you? You said you're lying. So I don't know.
She's not lying.
I'm kidding.
No. There was one that wasn't kind, but she wasn't one of the regulars. So I would have to say my experience was different. But I was only on for 2 episodes, and they ran 3 with clips. But my experience was great.
So you have worked with a lot of stars. We mentioned some of them. Let me ask you
Mhm.
about three of them in particular. So what was it like working, let's say, with Fabio on Boogie?
Well, that's a funny story because we knew each other from Ford because he
Okay.
was a model with Ford. And I said to the producers, like, would you like him to come on the show? And they said yes. The problem was that it's followed me for years subsequently because they've linked us together and there wasn't anything romantic. He was lovely. You know what? He's not actually what people really might think. And it's unfortunate. He sort of has the stereotype of this, what a lot of women have to deal with because he's a male model and he was on the cover of Harlequin romances, that he's vacuous and there's nothing going on.
Right.
And but it's quite the opposite. He's lovely.
Well, Fabio and I have something in common. I used to do some male modeling as well.
Okay.
I was the before guy.
Okay,
Uh,
cool.
so, speaking of Canadians, what
Mhm.
was it like working with Dave Thomas, who I love from
Yeah.
SCTV and countless other shows?
You know what? He was just such a sweetheart and everyone loved him. It was just a joy to work with him and obviously very funny. But, a lot of comedians, they're funny on set, but maybe a little introverted
Right.
offset. But he wasn't. He was always on. He was always funny. He was very kind to me.
I used to be good friends with the late Kip Addotta. I don't know if you remember Kip Addotta.
No, I don't.
Very famous comedian, been on Tonight Show a million times.
Mm-hmm.
And when you speak with him, very reserved, very serious, never
Mm-hmm.
cracked a joke. But on stage, and he did CDs and all that, it's like the light switch went on.
Yeah, I feel like Robin Williams, who I met on the red carpet
I
as an
saw that.
interviewer,
Yeah.
I feel like he would have been different personally.
Yeah, I saw him do stand-up comedy, and
Mhm.
boy, was he ever filthy. I was shocked.
Great, I love that.
I learned a few new words. But yeah.
But you can't keep that level of energy up, I think offset and when you're home and people don't really realize that. It's kind of like models. You don't always look camera ready.
Right. Well,
you,
life
you have to have some downtime.
Yeah,
absolutely.
sure.
And lastly, how about Kevin James, the King of Queens?
You know what? They were also, I mean, I sound really generic and boring, but they were kind to me. I didn't have a lot to do with them on set. It was they had been there already. I don't know how many seasons when I went on. They were kind. We didn't have a lot of interaction, but I got to work with Chuck Lorre, which is
Oh,
for
wow.
me as a comedic fan and a fan of sitcoms, that was huge. To work with that caliber of director.
Wow, yeah, he is like, wow.
And he left. They unfortunately they cut my role, and it wasn't as funny as I thought it could be,
Right.
but because I made it much bigger because I played this German salesperson, and I made it much bigger, and they wanted it toned down in the one that they actually used, unfortunately. But I made him laugh in rehearsals, which made me really proud.
You would have been great as Ule in The Producers.
Oh, thank you.
So they should have cast you as that.
Right?
That's right.
Monika, what advice would you give young models today?
I get asked quite often this question, and it's hard because it's not something that you have a lot of control over, right? It's very much what you look like initially. I would say, to obviously go with a reputable agent. If they're asking for lots of money up front, yes, you can pay for your pictures, but it's a sign that it's not a reputable agent, because you're not supposed you shouldn't have to pay any money up front. To be true to yourself, and I felt always that I had to do everything that I was asked. You can be true to yourself and not do everything that, if you're uncomfortable with something, for example, you don't have to say yes.
Makes sense.
And I understand that you're working on your memoir, which I'm dying to read.
Oh, it's been so hard. I thought COVID would be the perfect opportunity to write, but I'm homeschooling with a 7-year-old, and it's insanity here. I just got the dishes done and it's 7 o'clock at night. I find it hard to find time to write. I really hope we can go back to school soon. I love my son more than anything, but I'm really excited about it because it's anecdotal and I hope it's funny and poignant. And I did come out with a book when I was like maybe 18 or 19.
Yes.
Between you.
Yeah, but between you and I, it wasn't all that honest because I was afraid of offending people, and I was so young when I wrote it with a ghostwriter. It
Right.
wasn't really, I didn't want to get fired, I didn't want to bite the hand that fed me, and I was afraid of, offending people. And so this one will be very honest and all of the stuff that you might want to hear about modeling and
Do you have the
acting.
title picked out yet?
I do, but I'm afraid that if I share it, someone will steal it.
Fair
It's
enough.
really good. It's really good.
Well, we're excited.
The world has changed a lot, and I think it's a different place than it was when you wrote your first autobiography.
Yeah,
And
I think
people,
that we have more space now as women, to be honest, and people are more accepting of the truth. And yeah, it'll be real. I'll get real.
Without getting into too much detail, I hope this is not the case, but did you ever experience your own Me Too moments back
You know
then?
what? There were definitely moments where I was uncomfortable in casting situations, and oh my goodness, it would take a few hours to tell you everything, but
Wow.
definitely I was spared the worst of it.
Thank God.
Of course, I was on the casting couch and some gross producers trying to touch me. That happened, and but I was lucky. I don't know if it was my size, the sheer, the sheer. It's sorry, I don't mean to make light of it, but that my intimidating size. That and I'm from Scarborough, which is like now in Canada, it's the hood.
Like Malvern Cripps.
Yeah. So I was lucky, I was really lucky, and and this, by the way, is no sort of indictment of anyone, but I also didn't drink or do drugs, and I was like a good, and that's I have to say that it's in no way any victim's fault ever, but I was not in those situations, often, so where you're in a vulnerable situation.
It's interesting too, because you almost came along at the perfect time in some ways, because speaking with Sandy and with Harry and telling us about Club 54,
yeah,
and we've heard stories, and one of them we had to bleep out.
Oh, I can tell you some. Oh my God, thank you. I have to write that in the book. Yes, I just remembered one.
You never went to Club 54, did you?
No, I didn't, but some stories on set during that time, just after.
Okay.
When did Club 54 end?
Studio 54.
I want to say,
Sorry, studio.
because I know they closed and then they reopened, and I want to say like 82, 83, something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I came along in 85.
So missed it by that much.
Probably good.
Very good. Especially if you ask Harry King or Sandy next time you speak with them.
Oh, I will. Okay, cool.
Oh, God.
It's been really nice, by the way, to reconnect with them on Instagram, and just because you lose touch with so many people, but they're very it's been really nice to see them on and doing well.
Well, you know what, Monica, I'll befriend you on Facebook, and Harry comments all the time, and Gad is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't he lovely? And he's Canadian.
Sandy, I mean,
They're all great.
everyone in fashion is amazing. Like, honestly, it's like a different world.
Well,
The ones we've met.
the ones you met. Of course there are some egos, right?
But even people, again, like the legends that we've spoken to, couldn't be nicer. Like Sandy, who's a legend.
She's
Albert
a
Watson,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Unbelievably nice. And wow, anyways, I can go on about
We've
them.
been very fortunate.
Yeah.
And what about your involvement with Women's Build campaign?
Well, yes, the last year has been a little tough for everyone, but I've been an ambassador for the Women Build campaign for the last, I think 12 years. And basically we have building teams entirely made up of women. So from the the framers to the drywall to the electricians and the plumbers, everyone is female, and it's really empowering. And we get women who have never, swung a hammer, and empower them to which is my passion. I love renovating and tools, and we get them swinging hammers, all for a great cause.
That's terrific. That is a great cause.
We saw a video of you making the most amazing
Wow.
mosaic. Was it a mosaic table?
Oh, how did you see
Remember
that?
that?
That is so old.
Wow.
How did you see that? Was it on YouTube?
Amazing.
Yes, we saw it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh
That
my
was,
gosh.
wow.
I did this kitchen, by the way. I did everything.
So what are you doing next week?
Wow. Honestly.
I'm going to be taking care of my son, but then I'll come over and fix your kitchen.
Thank you. Actually,
Beautiful.
that's
Thank you.
amazingly impressive.
So, Monika, if anyone would like to know more about you, where can they go?
Well, I have my, Instagram these days. I don't really look at my website. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and soon to be on the shopping channel with the DNA company.
That's fantastic.
And, hopefully another acting job soon.
That'll be great.
We look forward to
Well,
it.
we would definitely support that, and we love to support you in everything that you do, Monika.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate this. This was fun. Thanks, guys.
We had a blast, and again, it was an honor to have the very first Canadian supermodel as our very first model guest
Vogue
on our
cover
show.
model.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so
guys.
much.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to Uncovered Vintage Fashion Magazine Review Podcast.
Uncovered was produced by Morley Schulman, with music by David Renda and logo design by Alan Lipman.
So remember, if you liked Uncovered, be sure to tell 2 friends about it.
And they'll tell 2 friends.
And so on, and so on, and so on.